Welcome to Biggest Geekus. We're your hosts. I'm Joe.
And I'm Randy.
This is episode 164 of our show, and the date is Tuesday, November 7th, 2023. A few seconds late. Sorry.
Not sorry. We meant to do it.
Randy's
Ooh.
not sorry, but Joe is sorry.
Randy's
Even though
not
Joe
sorry
almost
at
called
all.
himself Randy when I said I am.
Well, I think we all secretly want to be me. And, you can't blame
Probably.
you can't blame people for that. It's really not very cool to do that. So, oh, man. Feeling pretty good?
Yeah. Got some gaming in finally.
Oh, dude, did we? It was fun.
It was fun. Well, it's been a long time since we all sat together. It's been since Big Geek Con.
Yes.
But
this campaign we haven't touched for a year. It actually said in my notes the dates. We're like literally almost a perfect year.
Yeah, in the Big Geek Con was a different environment, so different things going on. So it's convention atmosphere, but this is sitting around your friend in your friend's house in a friendly campaign. Not that it wasn't friendly at Big Geek Con. It was pretty.
No, it was awesome.
It was
actually
almost the same.
Yeah, Big Geek Con was just so cool. But yeah, we're going to talk about that tonight, right? We're going to talk a little about the campaign we got back into, and
yes,
it might even.
We're going to talk about that.
Yeah.
And anything else going on?
For me, not much. I think I wouldn't say I'm fully ready for the winter, but I'm getting ready. I did the mulching with the lawnmower last weekend, so I think my house is just about ready. Hey, Ryan David's still awake. Good.
Mr. David.
No sleepy. We got Darth in the house and Martinson.
Is he in a different time zone?
I don't think so. Ryan, he might be tired though from the change in time this week. It's been hard for some people.
Yeah, apparently there are issues with people in that time change, and when the time changes, there are some excess deaths as a result for some reason or another.
I know it's weird. Green Apple's in the house. Larry Elliott.
It never bugs me.
No, it's fine. I actually like this one. Feels weird because I feel like because you fall back in the fall, so you get a little extra rest. So
little bit.
Oh, Ryan's having a big trouble with some copitude. I understand, but time change is kind of dumb. Who else here? Iron Man's here. Patrick Demo, Martinson, our two guys, Larry and Martinson. They both played in the campaign. They might have some things to say. And if I didn't mention Green Apple, I will mention it again. Halcyon, what's up, stranger? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't. It's never ever been. I guess it's just me not paying attention to stuff. It never really bugs me one way or the other. But,
yeah, I mean,
for some it does. So,
well, Darth says he has a bigger problem with springing forward. Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, because you're losing the hour then. So,
it always happens when I'm asleep. So it doesn't.
Well, I got up the other day it actually happened after we gamed, and I woke up the next day and I wasn't sure because we said it was so late. I wasn't sure I was going to go to church, but I woke up in time and when I went to church, and I actually woke up early and I changed all the clocks that morning. So
I know sitting in church, I was like,
were you nodding off?
Well, we were up really late.
Mm-hmm. So, not good for old men.
No, probably. Well, I was telling my wife, hey, we didn't get to bed till like 2, but it was actually 1 because of the time change. But it just that's the only reason I was kind of dragging the next day because we gamed and stayed up late.
Well, Darth says since he's up all night, he works a night shift, I believe. He goes, he's fully aware of it. I'm almost off. Not quite. David Gwill. He has little ones, so time change means nothing.
Because you're always tired anyway.
Yeah. So I normally get to listen to Ryan David and then chirp some of the stuff they talked about today, but I didn't get to listen to the Nerd Cognito podcast. I'll do that tomorrow.
Yes, do that and then report.
It's high on the rotation, so just so Ryan knows, I put that pretty high on my rotation. I try to get to it. We got a couple of faith-based and sports-type podcasts. One's a combo. His is probably in the top 5.
Right, and so I got home from work early because there wasn't a lot of mail today. It's Tuesday.
Right.
Usually Monday's heavy, Tuesday's light. Even this time of the year, we haven't quite got into holiday shopping season, but we're getting ready to. Well, so then I figured I'll take my dogs out for a walk before the show, so they'll be less rambunctious, perhaps.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently that is a mixed bag as far as how
how things go.
Well, one of them barged into the room right before we we got online, did our little preliminary stuff.
Yep.
And was like, "Hey, you can take me out again." And she had only been home for after I took her for her walk for maybe an hour.
Is that Elizabeth?
Yeah.
Yeah, she's
she's full of energy.
Yeah, she's fully charged. She got a lot of puppy energy.
Yeah. I took her out to the backyard and she ran around a bit, didn't stay out there very long. And I was like, okay, this should be all right. And then I come back in and my older dog says, "Hey, what about me?" And, I can't play favorites. So I took him out too. But now I hear her in the bedroom barking her head off. So we'll see how it works out.
Yeah, we did. We had an animal thing. The wife is part of a group called FurFest here in Michigan, and they've had some ups and downs and issues recently, but they help out shelter animals. A lot of cats, but they do dogs too. And we saved took a couple of feral cats. We're planning to get them neutered and let them go back out in the wild. Welcome to Charlotte Williams. Already said hi in the chat, so I'm doing great. Glad she's here, and we got a nice group here to talk about magic systems. But the cats we captured. It was amazing. We put the live traps out. We left the house where we set the traps. They called us. We're 10 minutes away and said we just caught 2. So we went back and got 2. And then later that evening they caught another one. Went back and got that one, and then we caught the other one today. So I think the last one we caught I'm not sure they're all fully feral. The sad thing is they might have been let go, and I'm not really. I've become more of a cat appreciator because my wife's going to be a crazy cat lady when I die, and she would be now if I wasn't here. But we got 4 cats in our. Well, this is going to sound crazy. We have a catio, folks, at my house. Not a patio, but a patio for cats. It's called a catio. So I guess I am crazy about cats because I don't like crap for my wife, and it's all right though. So.
Right.
Taking on the animals.
I think the feral cat thing is a little bit more. Hey, phone guy.
Hey, phone guy. What's up, man?
Is a little bit more of a problem.
Yep.
Than stray dogs, I think.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And if you have a lot of stray dogs, you're going to have some serious problems because they start turning into packs. You're going to have some issues, and you can't handle them the way you do stray cats. Well, cats aren't going to they bunch up in a colony, but they're not going to be hunting down, be dangerous for young kids.
Right.
Well,
so
I don't think
the dangerous dogs get taken care of pretty quickly, on average, faster than the cat problem.
Yeah.
Happens. It's usually somebody says, "Hey, that lady has 500 cats. You guys got to go do something."
That's not so great.
But apart from that, it's a matter of folks like you who volunteer their own time to go do it.
Yeah. Our man's telling Charlotte we had some nice fall weather. We did this past week or so. It's supposed to turn cold tomorrow, though. High of 39, so it'll be a bit chilly in Michigan. I won't call it super cold. Ryan David says Google Atlantic City Boardwalk cats. Yeah, I bet that's a site. When we went to Germany several years back, I went to a conference for math nerds. Math teachers in Hamburg, and we went somewhere in Germany. I forgot where it was, on some downtime, and they have a statue with this guy and all these cats. It's a giant bronze statue, and the town was known for collecting cats and taking care of them. So my wife had seen that on the internet 2 weeks before we went to Europe, and she goes, "We have to go there." And by sheer luck, we were close enough to drive, so we went. That cool. was pretty cool. So.
All right, so this is a gaming podcast, not a cat podcast.
Correct, and it should not be. I don't even know why I'm talking about them.
Or a stray animal podcast or a dog podcast.
Right.
So today's show is about, as far as our first topic, is designing the all-important magic system. And magic system, not systems. Right. We talk about systems.
Right, it's part of it.
About several ones.
Right.
Several of them. So we played for the first time together in a long time. And we got into a discussion about magic systems, so we thought it would be a good topic for today.
Yeah, we must talk for an hour and a half after the session about it.
Yeah, and someone last week said that if you want to make a distinctive new OSR or whatever tabletop game, a way to distinguish it is in the magic system.
Yeah, I forgot who it was, but someone had mentioned that was for them. That was the key of whether or not they're interested.
It might have been Darth, but I can't remember.
Yes,
for sure.
I don't know if it's Darth or Green Apple. Somebody had mentioned it, that's something they really look at first. And, that's what got me thinking about the topic. And I was like, we spent so much time on it. Strangely enough, Joe and I both were like, yeah, this is what we should talk about. And is that true? I mean, how many people, if you're talking a fantasy game, right, which we are basically, do many people look for a fantasy game? I guess there are some people that look for a fantasy game where they play normal people, mostly mundane. When I say that, let me caveat
weirdos
that.
do.
Well, what I mean by that is I'm just, I'm a tough fighter. I'm tougher than the average dude. But they remember the game in 3rd edition, Iron Heroes? It was like wasn't that Mike Merle's his first RPG he wrote?
Right. It was still fantasy, but with very, very okay. He said there was going to be a very kind of light magic system to it, but he had a deadline to make. So I don't even think he included any. It was very, he was apologetic about that, if I'm remembering correctly from that long ago.
Yeah, but I mean, the point is, do you want to play rogues and fighters? I mean, even Fafhrd and the Grey Mouser, didn't the Grey Mouser cast some spells?
Yeah, apparently they both did.
Oh, okay. So there's a little
magical in some kind of way.
So I think whoever made that comment. Oh, what's David Gwill saying?
David Gwill says new magic system is good because pseudo-vancian magic doesn't make any sense, and I agree. Pseudo-vancian is what is in D&D.
Yes, even 5th edition is pseudo-vancian.
Because
third edition was Vancian, but they had
all you have to do is read Vance's stuff, and it doesn't have that structure. In fact, the powerful casters there only have 4 or 5 spells at most.
Oh,
and now they're powerful, depending. So an average person may have a few, but they're not very powerful. But the really powerful characters in the story had powerful spells.
Patrick Demo says Iron Heroes had a sorcerer class, and he said there was plenty of magic, just a lack of reliance on magic items. So were fighters made magical in that world? I can't recall. Or were they like whirlwinding at 2nd level?
I just remember something about that product.
Yeah.
It may be something else I'm thinking of, but something about that product where he said that he didn't have a lot of development time for the magic system.
Yeah, I think that was that one. And I think what Patrick is saying, I think that came in a supplement, didn't it? I think the original book, the sorcerer, there might have been a sorcerer class, but I think he was kind of weak. Patrick might be more on top of things.
The idea was to not have a lot of magic, I believe, because it's Iron Heroes, fighters.
Is Patrick working right now? You want to jump in, Patrick? He would be good to have in this discussion. I didn't think of that. Can he jump in or is he at work? We could add him in, couldn't we? Send him a link.
Could, sure.
Hey, Patrick, what do you think, man? You want to join us, or are you busy at work? Anyway, so
you may just be busy at home.
Yes. So if there is no magic system, I guess I don't get what's fantastical about things. I guess, Conan's fantastical, and when I think about Conan, I guess I don't think about playing wizards. Though Conan the Destroyer, both the book had now he's at work. Conan the Destroyer had a magic user in it. He was kind of I won't call him a chump, but he wasn't terribly impressive until he was raising the dead.
But the powerful magic was on the bad guys.
Almost always.
So for the Conan stuff, right? If you got powerful, you were pretty much a bad guy. I mean, Thulsa Doom, he turned into a big snake. And the mirror dude.
Yeah. Yes. That weird demon mirror guy. Yeah.
Yeah. So
was he a sorcerer or was he a demon? I don't remember.
I don't know. He looked like a human guy, but then once the mirrors started getting cracked, he looked different. So right.
Yeah. That was the second Arnold movie.
Right. A lot of people don't want to remember.
Iron Man says magic spells should be a resource, either points or mana available or spell slots, that type of thing. Yeah, we'll talk about that some too. Charlotte Williams says casting a spell should be an event, more of an event than they are. I can see that viewpoint.
Sure. It all depends on what you want to evoke in your game and in your setting.
And Ryan Davis said there's a place for both. If you're going to embrace fantasy and not go low or no magic, everybody has some sort of fantastic element. That's what makes it larger than life. Yeah, you have to do something with the fighters and the rogues for sure to make them interesting. But I just find some people, I just don't know if anybody, I guess you could play low magic. To me, I still think the magic system in a fantasy game, I think I agree. It's what I want to see. I want to see how they're going to handle it. The first time I get any kind of fantasy game, I want to see how does magic work, because it can be a deal breaker, not just for this hippie over here, but in general the game working interestingly. If wizards aren't somehow interesting. Hey, Redshift, what's up, brother?
Redshift, yeah. Also, the magic sets the tone for the imagined world that everyone's playing in.
Sure.
And who's magical? Do you have mundane classes? Do you does everybody have some? I think that's what Ryan David was kind of saying.
Yes, correct.
Do all the classes have something at least a little bit magical? What about your non-adventuring people, the NPCs, the villagers, the bartender?
Well, if I remember, it's been
they have magic?
Long time since I've read it, but there was I think the original Eberron in 3rd edition, they talked about magical brooms and stuff. I mean, there was an economy with small, they had a magic technology that people actually used. And even they said they had little house, I think they said little house spells that people might know. That was a very magical world.
Right. So you walk into, you want to do your housework for the day, and you use your house magic, and it cleans your house for you.
Yeah, that's kind of a Magitech world. Not my absolute favorite.
Right. So that's that's one of the other considerations. So if we're talking about the design of a magic system, what are you trying to evoke? So you probably have to figure out that first. Really?
Yeah, I think.
Do you think so?
Oh, well, sure. If you want, I mean, if you're making the game, the first thing you got to realize is, to me, I can't even imagine not considering magic as one of your top 2 or 3. I mean, you can have a theme. Our game is going to be, blood and guts, gritty, dark swords and sorcery. So I think that's something like Shadow of the Demon Lord, where magic is dark and does really horrible things, sometimes to the caster. Or if you're going to play something more like the Forgotten Realms, where it's not that magic is not everybody can cast spells, but magic items are fairly common. Adventurers will have them. Wizards can get super high levels. There's multiple wizards like that. Spells are a thing. Most people know about it. If a wizard walks into a town and casts Levitate, even the commoner is not going to be, oh my God, that's unbelievable. I've never even heard of such a thing. They might be shocked for a moment. Like, oh my God, it's a wizard. That's about it.
Right.
I mean, Gandalf was more of a shock than any other wizard would be in the realms. I mean, Gandalf wouldn't shock anybody. Not in the realms, he wouldn't.
No.
They'd be like, that's pretty cool. What are you, about 9th level?
Right.
That would be, right?
No, some of them would be wondering, are you even a wizard? Because what does he actually cast?
Yeah.
I mean, he throws around fireworks,
and
he has that protective thing he did with the Balrog. But most of the time, let's say if you use the trilogy as your, this is what Gandalf is. He looks more like a fighter with a robe. He doesn't. Well, he does. I don't know. In the book, did he do the same thing he did in the movie? Whenever he saved the army, and he cast that light on the Nazgul from his staff. He just cast some sort of protective thing, and he. So we know what he is. So he is an angelic being that is constrained on Middle Earth.
Correct.
He can only do so much.
Took the form of man, and the thing was called a wizard. Yeah.
Right, and there are conjurers that he mentions.
Yep, and sorcerers, but they're mostly evil.
Yeah,
there were sorcerers who weren't like the wizards, the 5 wizards.
They were different.
Yeah. Jack the 71st says magic is one of the pillars of the RPG design for fantasy. Agreed, 100%.
Right. And
good comments too. I'm going to share in a minute.
Right. So that kind of thing works well in stories, even on TV shows, books, and all of that. But in your game, if most of your magic is so subtle, you can't even tell you've done much of anything. I think a lot of people will be a little disappointed. So even Middle Earth role playing,
Mm-hmm.
that's based a little bit on the older version of it was
Yes,
based on
Merp.
Rollmaster, and
Right.
Rollmaster had a quite extensive spell system, magic
Yep.
system, all kinds of spells and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Now, honestly, I didn't crack open Middle Earth role playing, but I'm pretty sure it used all that stuff.
I had the box set. I bought, like, I think it was the first or second printing of the box set back in the day, and I was looking at it and I was like, this is not even D&D. You got to realize how dumb I was.
Yeah.
I mean, I was like, if it's got fantasy stuff on it, it must be D&D. I mean, for
Correct.
many
Yeah,
years,
yeah.
I thought every game that wasn't D&D was stupid. That's literally what I thought when I was young. I mean, everything else was dumb. I mean, because we
Right.
looked at Top Secret, and I looked at Boot Hill, and I'm like, I'm not playing that. That's dumb. I mean, and now things have changed, but I mean, back in the day, that's how it was. And yeah, I think Magic is just, I don't know where the fun would be in a fantasy game without it. And so you have to consider it. I think the power level is important. I think how significant it is in the world. But like I said, I was telling Joe, we'll get to this later. That's one of the conundrums I had with my, I mean, I made 4 or 5 pages back to back of some changes that I'd like to make. There's nothing huge there, but it felt kind of random. We'll get to that. So Magic was sort of the big crux of it. I don't quite yet even have a focus or a theme, and I got to work on that.
Right. And, a lot of people will poo-poo on this,
Mhm.
but in these games, there is the element of it being a power fantasy.
Absolutely. Nothing wrong with that.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
And for some people, power is being able to fly.
Sure.
Man, if I can fly, I'm super powerful. And they can make a point.
Yeah.
And for other people like us, power's, stopping time.
Mhm.
That's power. So that's kind of, it all
Just
depends on
conjuring fire, conjuring elements out of thin air. Sure.
that's pretty cool. But I mean, we want to get to like the unbelievable levels.
Sure.
But we'll worry about that later. Yeah. So yeah, I think you have to consider Magic. Green Apple's got our back. Only ones poo-pooing it are fake fans. Yeah. I love high level. I don't care what anybody says.
Yeah.
And that's something I want to do. We're getting close to our second.
I'm going to say, I don't think that even though, say, Wizards had spell progression up to however the highest level in the different versions,
Yep.
up to level 20 or higher.
Yep.
In AD&D, up to 36 level.
Sure.
In
Rules.
Rule Cyclopedia and all of that. I don't think that it was very well considered.
I don't think so either. I think it was a mathematical progression in a lot of cases. If you look, you can see the mathematical progression of the spell tables, and they created some high-level spells even in first edition and Rule Cyclopedia. Did Rule Cyclopedia went to 9th level for Wizards, right?
Oh, sure. But
Okay,
there were some caveats to when you got them.
Yeah, I think didn't you have to be like, was it 27th level or 22nd level before you could get a 9th level spell in Rule
something like
Cyclopedia?
that, 21st, 22nd. And
Which,
then which is the spell. They always say this is the most powerful 9th level spell.
Right.
You had to be 36 level and have an 18 intelligence or a 19 intelligence.
I'm completely fine with that.
Sure.
Issues with that. But yeah, so I think you have to consider the magic system. You have to decide how it's going to affect your game. Is it going to be prevalent, not just low or no magic or high magic, but you can have high magic without thousands of magic items. I mean, you could have a high magic setting where characters can do lots of stuff, and magic items cannot be created. They are gifts of the gods. They are side effects of magical ritual spells over the ages. So
right. So I think what I'm saying it's not very well considered is everybody whining about how powerful the wizard gets compared to the other characters, and in the older games how the creatures in the challenges in the books weren't really up to the task for double-digit or higher.
not characters,
parties?
not just wizards, characters
In
how
general.
little fighters could just murder things.
And the other character classes don't have anything that can compare to being able to stop time or call in a meteor swarm or even teleport all over the place.
Yeah, I agree with Charlotte here. She says 9th level spells, 36th level characters. You can go from a complete nobody to a godlike immortal. Love. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the immortal rules, but I love the feel. I love the idea of getting super powerful.
Yeah, but if you were in the 30s and casting 9th level spells, most of your normal folks are going to think that's what you are. Yep. Especially if you're not able to cast Wish until 36th level, but all the other stuff that you can
do. Yeah, the things you can do even before 9th level spells. Ryan David says the wizard would never survive to get to those mega spells without the rest of the group. Right, you got to consider them. That's the balance, and that's the change. I would say this, though. I think the game, I used to be a proponent. I mean, Joe, I was one of those crybabies for years, that wizards are too powerful, spells are too good, blah, 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 blah. And I'm not saying that's not fully wrong. They were. The game was broken. I mean, spells were so good, wizards could just completely. And, in 3rd edition, they talked about the wizard being the god wizard. He had, complete control of not just the rules, but the narrative, the way he did things. But that's a little bit of the.
You know why?
Why?
Because DMs were chicken and didn't target the spellcaster.
And DMs were lazy, in my opinion, and didn't break the rules. And what I mean by that is, that might be a topic. I'm not bound by the same, and I'll defend this to the dying day. I'm not bound by the rules when it comes to creating my monsters, like the players are bound by the rules.
Oh, correct. The monsters should be able to do stuff that the players cannot.
Correct. And when you face really powerful stuff, you just go ahead and you make stuff that's I think I've told this story, maybe not. We were playing, oh God, that was the 7 Spheres game. You guys were near the game end. You were 25th level using my special rules. So you were probably the equivalent of a 40th level epic 3rd edition.
Yeah, we were powerhouses.
You were super power DCs in the 50s. And I made a creature. They fought a deposed archdevil who had been the Lord of Hell before Asmodeus was. And I don't know if you recall, he had a mirror image type effect, what you would call a displacement type effect. That was 75% mischance, period. And they had a heck of a fight with him, the whole party. Yeah. And they were like, holy crap. And like, I would just roll and say, these 4 attacks of yours miss. You can roll these other 2 because that's the only one's got a chance to miss. Remember that?
Right.
It sped the fight up, and it was a little frustrating, but you guys got into it because it had been a while since you really, well, maybe not that campaign. I put work into it. I don't think you guys ever took the adventures for granted, even when you were 27th level. You're like, Randy's going to bring some crazy crap tonight. And so,
you are good at running high level games, but it's a lot of work.
It is. You have to.
Or AD&D or D&D in all of its forms. High level games, maybe not 5th edition because it's vanilla, kind of plain and boring. But and I don't know about 4th, but everything up to 3rd and Pathfinder included, high level is a lot of work.
Yes, it is. Ryan David says DMs cannot be chicken. They have to be able to throw whatever they deem necessary at the wizard or party without explanation. The party needs to react. I agree. Sure. Oh, Jack the 71st said this. Wrath of the Immortals has the best immortal rules. That's different than the Immortal set, right? Wrath of the Immortals is a different product, I believe.
It's a different product. I'm not sure if it's a different rule set. I haven't seen that. The Immortals set is, well, the Master set is black.
Wrath of the Immortal has a dude flying. He's on the back of a dragon or something on the cover. It's a different beast. I think I bought that PDF years ago. I never use it. That's interesting. That's a possibility. Part of the balance is having that chance of a spell that backfires. In our game, the wizard blinded himself. Another time, he blew himself off the ship into the ocean. Oh yeah, you told me about that, Armin. That was cool. We're going to talk about that. Some spell systems.
Spell backfire. I'm not a huge fan of it. It all depends. It probably depends on how big of a chance it is.
Charlotte said, I think this is Wrath of the Immortals. Came out after Cyclopedia. They revised the rules.
Must have, yeah.
Okay, so it was meant to go along with Rules Cyclopedia. They didn't reprint because Rules Cyclopedia only is Beckham, right? It stops at Masters.
Right, Masters, yeah.
And
Masters
so
goes up to 36.
So they've done that as a reprint of
I think 24
Immortals.
to 36, something like that.
I've got that PDF. I should look at it then, since Jack said it was pretty good. I mean, it's probably got something going on.
Because I really did not like the Immortals rules because you really play a different game.
There's a guy I would suggest everybody watches. His name is the Beckme Berserker. He's on YouTube. He's a Brit. And he loves Beckme. And he's a guy that went from 5e to Beckme. And he is sold. and he did a long breakdown of the Immortals rules, and I watched about the first 2 episodes. I said, "Yep, I don't like this." I mean, that's cool that he does. I like the guy; is cool, but I was like, "That is not for me." So,
right.
Oh, it's a box set, but I have the PDF. I feel like I'll have to look at my pile of junk that I have.
Oh yeah.
Who knows? I bought some stuff a while back.
I am sure.
Yeah, but anyway, so yeah, for sure, we got to worry about that.
But do we have to worry about balance? Because some people have in the chat have mentioned balance. I'm not a big proponent of it.
I'm not either, other than I don't want it to be
because the spell is powerful. The magic user has to take a hit point of damage or age a year or something like that. I know that's the way some people like their game to be. That is a way of presenting magic, that when your wizard casts the magic, there must be balance in the universe. So because he has more powers, let's say, than a fighter who all they do is swing a sword, there is a payment to be made. And then whether it's a hit point of damage or a spell backfire or some other corruption or whatever might be present in that setting, that's what that setting is about. My thinking is don't like that.
You know what I like?
It has a place, but maybe not every spell needs to be able to backfire.
I agree. I think that's true. Look at Iron Man. He has a good. I was going to star it, but you just led that to be a good opening for him. He says, "Rule backfire. We rule backfire in that game is a nat 1 or d20. Bad backfires are for special, powerful spells. Otherwise, it's just a failed cast and maybe being stunned. Yeah, right. If you lose a turn, it's not a huge deal. Not in D&D.
Right. So that would be that would be non-standard D&D rule if you're playing probably just a different game. D&D, there's no, since you don't have to roll to cast a spell, you could add that, but the only thing you're checking for then is a backfire. At Big Geek
Con, our man talked to me a little bit about the game he normally plays, I think with a friend of his, and I think it involves that rule. I think he plays with a pretty cool set of house rules. He has a guy that's like created his own game, and I think you would enjoy it, even though it makes things interesting. I think there has to be a cost in my mind for being a wizard. If it's mechanical that they have low hit points and low armor class, okay, I'm good with that. I think for flavor, though, that's not my favorite. And my game is going to have something. You actually suggested it, and we'll talk about in the next one about sort of the price of, maybe letting wizards cast all they want, but there being some limitations and some. Well, we can talk about that later on. But anyway,
into the individual spells.
Balance. I don't think you can't have the wizard dominate everything, though. I mean, he can't be able to walk in and be like, from 1st to 20th level, I'm the best dude. There is no doubt.
Correct.
And if he is, then everybody's just going to play a wizard. So
I don't even.
That's the balance.
Let's say the wizard has powerful spells from get-go. Mm-hmm. That doesn't necessarily mean he's going to dominate all encounters, right? So if wizards are part of the world that you're gaming in, so if everybody knows if a wizard steps in the room, we're in trouble unless we take him down, they got a target on their back.
Well, I think that's part of your point about DMs being scared. I mean, you have to attack the Super Star Destroyer. And so, and you used to even say that when we played in 3rd edition. I remember Joe would tell me, Randy, this spell is really good. He'd warn me before he picked a new spell. He'd be like, I'm going to warn you, this spell's really good. Watch out. And I was like, dude, that is awesome. I said, he goes, don't forget, that would make me a target. I'm like, yeah, if you step in and you kill half the minions in one shot, they'd be like, dude, kill that guy in the robes now. Yep. Everybody, literally it would be like, everybody attack him. And
that's what you used to do when I had a character that could fly. I started flying. I got shot with arrows. That makes sense.
It makes sense. Dude, he's flying. What's he going to do next round? Shoot that dude.
Yeah.
I think that's true, and that could be a balance. That's a balancing of that's a logical consequence. Right. So you can play that way. I think D&D expected that you did, especially the TSR editions expected you would, as a DM, realize that what's good for the goose is good for the gander. If the PC wizard starts charming everybody and casting suggestions, hey, just have the evil enchanter do the same thing to the party fighter and the party rogue, and have them slice down their own party wizard. I mean. Tough luck, dude. Yeah, I mean, there's a reason not to just nerf it. I think games like 5th edition, really the big culprits, 4th edition, every class was pretty well balanced. on the surface. To be fair, not played it very much.
Right.
I don't know who's the dragon guy. I love him. He just pops in every once in a while. That's his nickname in the chat. Something Dragon.
Primarch, Dragon Primarch? No.
No. Anyway, he's a pretty cool guy, and he's a big 4th edition fan. I was hoping he would pop in and tell me I'm wrong, but my first read through is 4th edition is like everybody's the same, and they all do the same stuff, and I'm sure there's a difference, but it just didn't seem all that great to me. But
I didn't like the presentation of the player's handbook. It was a bunch of boxes.
Yeah.
Right.
Hard to read.
Spell cards.
Yeah.
All through the book.
Well, that was the intention, right? I mean, they wanted to play. Now, I will say, I think in my first read through, the first thing I thought in 4th edition was, even though it's a little more complicated than basic D&D, it was an easy access to new players. Here's your spell cards. Here's your ability cards. Use them. Yeah. And that's true, too. I think in games where the wizards are tough, wizard players should consider how effective giving your frontline fighters a strength spell is. Now they are crazy good. Yep.
Right. Even in 3rd edition, you had to really work hard for your damaging spells to be worth casting.
Yeah, your Saver Suck spells were better.
And your support spells, generally, like haste and slow and
strength and
grease,
confusion and grease.
And control of the crowd.
Grease
much better.
Grease was subtly, stupidly powerful.
Oh, yeah.
Charlotte Williams says, there just needs to be a trade-off. I agree. Something that makes the players go, So that's why there aren't wizards everywhere.
Right.
And not everybody wants to play a wizard because you don't want, like our buddy Martinson. When's the last time he's played a wizard? Has he ever played a wizard in one of our games?
Yeah, he had a sorcerer fireball dude, or was that the cleric?
It was his cleric fireball. He had a cleric guy that back in Pathfinder, but Martinson's not a huge fan of those. So what's up, Mac Thompson? Yeah, that's a thing. Yeah, I think balancing. I think you can do things like you can make access to spells tougher. We talked about that some, make them research to get their spells like an old school D&D, or like, what was the thing? Wizards don't. Where did we get the idea? I think it's got to be from AD&D. Wizards don't like to share their spells.
Right. Oh yeah. So we were talking about.
You love that. You love that.
Some games, and even D&D, in various editions of D&D, if you read how to gain spells as a wizard, there are some really, wizards that you could potentially get spells from are jerks because they don't want to share.
It might have been me.
No, it's described in the player's handbook in different other games that wizards guard their knowledge jealously. Right. So what you end up having is a wizard, when they finish their training, they get their one spell they can cast. Depending on what version, maybe they have 3 or 4. One's ventriloquism, for sure. They get kicked out of their mentor's house with 4 spells that are generally not worth casting. And then they're like, oh, here's your spells. Good luck. I don't want to give you any more. If you come back, I will kill you.
Right. You could, if wizard spells were all super powerful, you could say wizards, there are no such thing as wizard schools. Wizards do not share. They guard jealously their magic, but let wizards learn spells maybe a little more generously. Let them have spells as they level a little bit, and make it so that they are powerful and they don't want to share them because maybe they're afraid of what they can do with them. Have different ways to do that. I think Jack might be saying that statement is in the AD&D DM.
I would believe it. I've read some pretty strong statements otherwise. And, I'll teach you ghost sound, ventriloquism, gust of wind,
and prestidigitation,
and you're good. You should be able to fight the good fight in the dungeon. Make sure your fighter has plate mail and hide behind him. And that's something here, Darthea. I think a good wizard should back up the team and not use them as human shields. So in some editions of the game, once you've cast your one spell for the day, that's what you end up having to do, because if you're in some monster's face with your staff trying to plink him for 1 point of damage, probably at most, because of your strength penalty, that's not a good place for you, because you're probably going to get ganked really fast. So it's not good design to have the wizard always hiding out behind someone's coattails until they've gained a few levels. because it doesn't make a logical sense that you if you're hiding behind someone the whole time, you're probably not going to advance well. You have to be able to take a hit or two as an adventurer. If you're such a glass cannon that you can't even stand next to an orc with bad intentions without dying, it's bad. It's bad design.
Yeah. Iron Man says this though. He says our wizard just got to 7th level, and the only 4th level spell in his book is Fire Shield. It is what it is. That's a way to take it. We talked about that a little bit too. I mean, you can say you got to live with it.
Yeah, but if there aren't any wizards in the world that he can go up to and say, "Hey, can we share?" Or go to some library or find scrolls. If that's what he's going to be facing the whole time, it's like you're starving magic wise.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes you do, but should that be, the way it is all the time?
Yeah. Mr. Boisvan and Patty's Parlor's in the house. Welcome. Glad you guys have made it. Mac's been hollering his beagle. We're hearing Elizabeth. Everybody's talking about Elizabeth's high pitched.
Yeah, so you may not have gotten on the stream in time for me to tell you how this went today. I got out of work early. I went and took my dog for a walk, probably half hour, and then I took her out right before I got online, just in the backyard. So she's been out a bunch,
right?
And now she just wants my attention because she's really attached to me.
Is she outside the door or is she in the room?
Yeah, she's right. She's looking right at me. Hi.
Want some attention?
I'm here. I'm going to let her in and see if she'll shut up.
All right. Yeah, guys. So I think balancing is interesting. I think the limited armor and weapons is a good way to balance it. I think using magic resistance that can make wizards limited. I think
for the monsters having magic
resistance and make it high level. You can even do things like disruption. That's something I'm wrestling with. How do I want spells to be disrupted just because somebody walks up and pokes a wizard in the chest while they're casting a spell? Maybe. Patty, the man after my own heart. Balancing magic. Players don't get magic. Right on, baby.
It is difficult. Mm-hmm. So if you go through the lists of spells in D&D, I'm not sure how every other game really how it compares.
Yeah.
But in D&D, you're going to find a lot of duds at different levels of, right? You're going to have to find spells that are like, what were we talking about? We were playing OSE.
Yep.
And in OSE, I play a cleric, and you get your Cure Light Wounds spell as a first level spell, as it should be. And then you have to wait until a 4th level spell before you get the next level up in the curing spell. and that 4th level spell gets 1 extra dice of healing. So it goes
weak.
Is it a D6 or a D8? Whatever.
2D6 plus 1.
Yeah, so that's all you get for a 4th level spell.
And there's also this: if you follow the rules in like a BX game or OSE or probably any AD&D game, and you roll percent for everything that they're going to find, you roll the table as written according to monsters, treasure, and all that stuff. How many spell books are wizards going to capture? Maybe not many, maybe a bunch. If the theme is fighting bad wizards, you might get a bunch.
If you're not fighting a bunch of wizards, you're never going to find a spell.
And you got to roll scrolls, and they got to be arcane, and they got to be new spells. If you're going to be totally random, which a lot of people are fan of being random, I like it too. I like to roll.
Yeah, because
I mean, what's the chance you get these spells?
On the one hand, you want to give goodies out that the players are going to like. And on the other hand, it doesn't make sense that all the treasure is designed just for them.
Right. You found 4 magic items and they're perfect.
Video game crap.
It is video game crap. Yeah. But I mean, I'm not saying that's horrible crap though. There's time. I wouldn't say that's the worst. You won't get a lot of complaint from players over that. They'll wink and nod and be like, okay, I'm fine. I mean, if I hand Joe a Staff of the Magi at 7th level, he's not complaining.
And it also depends on the beginning character.
Yep.
What's the conception of your beginning character?
Yep.
Are they really, really supposed to be really weak? Are they supposed to be competent to some degree? Or are they supposed to be kind of powerful? So in D&D,
that's a conceit.
Yeah. So in most versions of D&D, a first level character is pretty weak.
Everybody grows, and third edition.
Hold on. Yeah. In a game like 13th Age, they're somewhat competent at first level.
Mm-hmm.
In a game like Palladium, say Rifts, your first level Leyline Walker can have over 200, can have up to 200 magic points, and has first, second, and third level spells. So it's quite a different dichotomy, or quite a different thing you have in conception between all of these different kinds of beginning characters. So if you're going zero, like absolute zero to hero, then okay, so you get one spell. That kind of makes sense.
Third edition gets a balancing effect. They gave other characters talents or feats. That helps balance out, making them better. Patty says this question. I want to kind of answer this one. He says, I guess it depends on why they go on the adventure. Why would an adventurer do a quest in which the rewards don't benefit them? How would they know if it benefits them?
Yeah, but honestly, most magic treasure is going to benefit them in some kind of way.
Yes.
At least they might be able to go trade it with someone if they can't use it themselves. But hey, fighter needs a new magic sword. Oh, there just happens to be a new magic sword in this chest.
Right.
I mean, at some point, yeah, you're going to find something that you can use.
Should mages be able to copy from other mages' spellbooks? I think they should. I mean, to me, that's a great, at least in my games, that tends to be quite a treasure. I mean, on the few times Joe Wizard has captured a spellbook, it's usually been pretty decent. I mean, he gets a buttload of spells. And I think they should be. It's a great reward for a wizard.
Right. And so your base conception for all of this should be, what's the level of magic in your game?
Yeah.
And your setting.
Correct. So it goes back to the original question.
Right. Yeah. And then are you creating something that's more generic or more tied to your setting? And if it's more tied to your setting, you got to do a little setting building first before you do more magic building. Yep. Should mages be able to copy from other mages' spells? That depends.
In AD&D, you had to cast Read Magic to do that.
Yes.
And you had a percentage chance of failure.
Yes.
Right?
Every time you tried to learn a spell. That didn't mean you couldn't ever learn it ever, but you had to wait till your next level to try to learn it again. And you never know if you're going to find that particular spell again to try to learn.
Yeah, Patty's saying, is it in reference to going, unless it's a paladin that's trying to eradicate an evil necromancer using the MacMuffin to cause evil, but the mage and his party may be motivated by getting that spellbook. Yeah, or it could just, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I don't know if getting the spellbook's always a motivation. I'm just saying, my reference was more to this, Patty, where you said, that wasn't it. Dang it. The second question, why would an adventurer do a quest in which the rewards won't benefit them? Right, if you were to tell them what the rewards are, but if you said, hey, the quest is to go stop the bugbears from advancing on this town, and you find out, there's an ogre mage leading them, and maybe he has a spell book. Maybe he's an ogre mage wizard. Maybe he's literally an ogre who's a mage instead of an ogre mage. Yeah, so who knows?
And there's kind of a that Christmas tree thing that's born of you have slots that you can put magic items in instead of just not worrying about that.
It engenders a style of play that's not great for us.
Right. So.
Got it. Patty says he was referring to the words matching the class of the play. Yeah, right.
Well, class could be one thing, but individuals. I'm talking about individuals.
Like in third, especially in third, when you would build your character a certain way. I don't use swords. I use kukris. I can't use I don't want to use a +4 kukri. You're going to turn away a +4 kukri? That's what I would say. That would annoy the crap out of me when you guys would do that. I understand that the benefit cost, the sunk cost of doing that was fair game, but to me it was like, that's ridiculous. A +4 weapon doesn't come by that often, and you're just going to punt it. Okay.
Right. When you can so specialize in your character that whole swaths of treasure are, in your opinion, worthless or not useful. It's never worthless because you could perhaps find someone to trade or whatever. Right. But yeah.
I mean, I remember I did it once, even in like old D&D. You guys were like AD&D. You guys were like 9th or 10th level, 12th level. You had a lot of good. All the fighters had, metal armor that was plussed, and I put in a +5 suit of leather armor. And you guys just did the AC calculations that that's no good. And I was like, really? It just kind of And I did. I said, you're right. They're going to get rid of it. They're just going to. Well, actually, what you did, you threw it in your treasure hoard and moved on.
Oh,
What?
yeah, we just lie. Mac Thompson. High adventure, lots of booty, possible magic items, etc. Oh, and there might be this dusty old book, but don't worry about that. LOL. Yeah, I'm kind of familiar with that. Hey, there's a magic user over here. Maybe you'll find a magic book in there somewhere. And then there won't be one.
Yep. Agree, David Gwill. He said that's why you give magic items abilities beyond pluses, 100%.
And
right.
I was also thinking this is about magic too. There's a problem with magic item turnover with a character.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So I have a magic armor, and now I found a more magical armor. I'm going to switch it out.
Yeah.
Another more magical armor. I'm going to switch that out, or sword, or ring, or whatever.
Yep.
And I think that it might even be a little easier to handle that, because especially if you start out with a family heirloom, or this is your father's armor or sword,
right?
And it's nice, it's really good, really well made. Why would you ever get rid of it? It would dishonor your family or whatever. So, what's to stop the design of the game from having you just inscribe on the magic on the sword, and it becomes magical.
Mm-hmm.
And say it gets destroyed, and you find another magic item, you just do that same rune again. Someone does, maybe not the fighter, but right. So you have runes.
Yeah, you could do that.
Or special. Say so in Lady Hawk.
Yeah.
What's the main fighter's name?
Do not recall.
Remember?
No.
Okay.
Rutger Hauer.
Rutger Hauer turned into a wolf at night.
Right.
So yeah, he had an old family sword from his grandfather, I think, and he was part of his whole thing was he grabbed Matthew Broderick's character, the thief, because he was chopping wood with it, and said, "Look at this sword. This jewel was put in here by my grandfather, and this was put in by my father, and here's a spot for mine."
Mm-hmm.
And so you could have a whole quest around getting that special thing that you can bedazzle your sword with and make it better.
Darth's backing you up. In most games I've been in, it's amazing how many wizards there are that don't carry spell books. I would say only one of every 5 to 10 have a spell book.
How does that happen?
Joe faced that a lot. In 3rd edition, I was able to.
Oh, you mean enemy wizards?
Yes.
Yes, enemy wizards never have it. That's why 3rd edition was great, because you could just say they're sorcerers.
Yep. Arman does the rolling up of treasures, so he's right. There's quite a bit of magic, but pretty random. So.
Yeah. So if you have the build game going on, and it's such that it ties your character too tightly to one path, then you cut yourself out of all kinds of opportunities. Yeah. However, with regard to magic, we're talking about balance and having finding spell books, because finding someone that would be kind enough to they're like, no, you suck, you can't have any of these,
you will stay sucky.
Yes, you wanted a fireball, I have that in my book, but you can't have it because you suck.
Right.
I'm not good at the spell, and if you try to attack me, I'll cast a fireball on you.
And only sorcerers have it in my world. 3 e-sorcerers. We don't use spell books. That was cheese, but it did work.
Imagine if a fighter had to convince a blacksmith who was cantankerous.
Yeah.
You see all these swords here, but you can't have any.
All blacksmiths.
Because you suck.
All blacksmiths were like that.
Yeah.
We're not selling you a sword. What do you mean?
You have a dagger. You're good.
Yeah. Patrick
that
Demo.
Wooden shield, leather armor, and a dagger. You're good.
Patrick Demos talks about growing magic items. I made a little smart-ass remark about Weapons of Legacy did the same thing, but I think Earth Dawn might have been before them. I like items that grow. I like special items. When I give my fighter a sword, even if it's at 2nd level, I kind of don't want him to ever get rid of it. And the only way to do that is to give it room to grow.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's a powerful sword, but since you're low level, only this much is available to you.
Patty says, yeah, when you go to the blacksmith, you have to have a background check, a reference credit check. Yeah, we're not just selling you. We don't just sell anybody swords here, pal. Your 30 gold doesn't guarantee you a long sword.
Right, right.
You can buy a sword, but you can't have it same day. That's funny. Oh, man. What do you think about what types of magic systems in D&D that we've seen? I know you're not a fan of Vancian.
No.
And that went all the way through 3rd edition. They added the sorcerer and the warlock. Sorcerer initially, warlock later.
Right. It's silly.
Well,
because okay, this is why I think it's silly.
Sure.
I understand that on some level it's a balancing act.
Mm-hmm.
But on the other hand, the idea that you're always forgetting your spells, never remember them. The whole memorization idea is kind of weird.
Yeah, I agree.
And then the slots, and it's cumbersome.
I don't think slots alone are weird. If you have to place spells in them, it's weird. But if slots like in, I thought Monty Cook's Arcana Evolved, though it was really a powerful class, it was still the best wizard I'd seen in a while, where you would ready a set of spells. So you'd have these we always thought of as in your basket.
Mm-hmm.
And you would have 4 first level slots, 3 second level slots, 2 third level slots. And you could just pick from the basket. Every day you still had to quote unquote ready them. So you didn't have access to your whole spell book, but you had a subset of it. Weird Guy's got you back. He hates Vancian magic.
Well, the whole idea is that you can cast too many first level spells. Right?
Yep.
So we talked about that.
I think it's possible. I think you can. A spell like sleep can be overused.
Right.
At first level for sure. If you have sleep, yeah.
But so you have sleep as a first level spell. Mm-hmm. And you have some seconds, some thirds, and fourth. You have some fifth level spells.
Yep.
And like you can teleport and you can disintegrate.
Sure.
But heaven forbid you cast another sleep.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, when you're higher level, sleep's not too powerful. At low levels, it's too powerful.
Right, but we did get to the point where we were like, if you have spell points.
Yep.
And your first level spell, you can cast 50 times. That might not be great, especially if point blank.
You're forgiven.
Especially if it's scaled as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I think Weird Guys hit it. Magic Amnesia is just too bizarre. It's weird conceptually. Mechanically, game-wise, I don't know if I would call it balanced. I watched my friend John at Big Geek Con in the same game that Iron Man played in, saved his couple of spells till the big fight. And he did other things until then. He cast one other spell before the big fight. And you kind of have to do that as a lower level wizard. You got to kind of wait, which means you do a lot of other things. Some people say, that gives you a chance to role play and the challenge of this, but you don't get to do what your character's supposed to do.
Right.
Yeah.
And you're pretty much hiding or making your backup to the backup fighter because you don't hit very well. Your weapons don't do a lot of damage. You might say you're the director of the combat and it's because you're back there directing things that it's good. But is that what wizards are really good at?
Yeah, I don't know.
Be your character is, or you might say your character is. And I get that strategy is important, but it's just weird.
Patty's Bolton, take care, bud. He's missed seeing me on the Twitters. I need to get on there. I'm on X, dude. I comment periodically. Randy Nichols or Shikaka67. You'll check me out there. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to start putting those BG announcements back up on Twitter here soon.
I put Weird Guy's cool comment on a pocket fantasy magic system in the Starred. We're going to get to that when we talk more about Well, maybe we should do it right now because we are talking about systems. This is interesting. One game with interesting magic systems, says Weird Guy 564, is Pocket Fantasy. You have 6 combat spells. Wizard casts 2 per battle. Out of combat, 2 spells of anything your GM will allow per game session. Oh, so you you have 6 combat spells, can cast 2 per battle. Can you cast the same 2 over and over and each in a different battle? Could you cast Magic Missile and Fireball, then Magic Missile and Fireball? And could you cast 2 other spells outside of combat? That's a interesting gamey rule. Sounds kind of 13th Age-ish.
Yeah, 2 spells of anything your GM will allow.
Yeah.
So it sounds like it doesn't have to be the combat spells. It's some other stuff.
Hey, Joe, Pocket Fantasy is the right price. It's free. Yeah, well, check it out, dude. But let's see. So I think Vancian, I don't know, just because it's been around so long, I don't know if I love it. I wouldn't say I like it. I think there's something endearing about it, but it's not terribly good. I'm with you. I won't choose in the game that I create for Mudsword to have Vancian magic, at least not. No, I'm not going to have it. I'm just not interested. So we're going to talk about that point blank, man. That was kind of coming up. It says, what about powers limited number of times per day, like in 4th edition? At will, encounter powers. It's kind of like what Weird Guy's talking about.
Mm-hmm.
For 4th edition had a rule, something like that. You had these at will powers you could use all the time. The ones you could do only in encounters, like once per encounter, and then once a day. How do you feel about that?
13th Age had a recharge mechanic.
13th Age had a recharge. They had a very similar type thing. You had so many spells, but in general, in 13th Age, it works well. 4th edition felt weird. So I don't know.
Yeah. So this is the thing about how those kind of powers work.
Yeah.
Is they're centered around once per battle.
Yeah.
So that means that spell can't be cast outside of a battle, and it might be that it's only a spell that will damage your enemies. So it's going to be a battle that you cast it in, which also means that almost all of the spells are all focused on battle.
Yes.
Almost no spells in that system are non-damaging targeting spells that either help you defensively or hurt your enemies, either direct damage or debuff. So there's not a lot of utility spells.
Yes, utility. Isn't there a spell called a utility spell?
Yeah, I believe so.
It's kind of cheese.
And it has a bunch of different stuff you can do that.
It's not terribly.
Right. So I guess it's the kind of system that's conceptually, it all boils down to the fights.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
And the fights, there's a formula for making sure all the fights
are balanced.
Are balanced.
Yeah. That's often the case. So you don't, and balance, while it's good for the gamey part of it in terms of, we're not too powerful, they're not too powerful, it's nice and good fight, it's chancy, but I mean, it's less reasonable fight. That a lot of them those kind of games usually make sure the characters are going to win. 13th Age does. So
right.
It's an experience. Like I told Joe the other night, I think 13th Age is a good experience if you want to play the hero. And by that, I mean the hero, you're going to mostly win unless the dice just go horribly awry and your DM really pushes you to the limit. Yeah, Joe said that too, Darth. He said, only problem I have with 4E magic is it seemed like everyone, not just the wizard, was using magic. Yeah, agreed.
Right.
What about spell points? They're asking about spell points. What's your thoughts on that?
All right. So spell points. So I was mentioning with Rifts.
Yep.
The Leyline Walker starts out as a first level character with a bunch of spell points.
Right.
And the first, second, and third level spells don't cost very much spell point wise.
Right.
Even up to 6th level spells. There were 6th level spells I was looking at that only cost 10 points.
Didn't you play a Leyline Walker in my very short-lived Rifts games?
Yes.
Weren't you playing that? You didn't seem overly powerful. You were good.
Yeah, but that's the setting, though.
Yeah.
Right? That's the setting. In the setting, the enemies that you face are really tough. There's not a lot of mooks running around because they wouldn't survive. So everything's tough. You have to be tough, even as a first level guy. So you start out pretty tough and you get a bit tougher. I'm not sure exactly how the scale works with Rifts or other Palladium games, but you start out really competent, if not somewhat tough. But that's not how a lot of RPGs work. Some do. Some are you're fairly competent. Others you're not very competent at all. You're fairly awful at what you're supposed to be doing for your class's job, or what your character is, like we were talking about thieves.
Yep. Mac Thompson says, I like spell points. They worked well in our games, but it detracted from the wizard style play. At least the D&D wizard. He didn't play like the classic D&D wizard. I agree with you there. And a couple of comments. Point Blank says, he has killed characters in 13th Age. Everybody knows that's my sticky wicket. It is possible if you make them fight 4 battles without a full rest. Yeah, and if you also really ramp up the challenge. I mean, I think 13, it's possible, but it's so unlikely that it's not even...
The game isn't really, the point of it isn't to kill the characters. The point of it, I mean, everything, there's a lot of rules that say, hey, here's more for your character to make you better. And it's just the rules, not like the magic items or the treasures or anything like that. It's the escalation die. It's all the recoveries. It's a lot of things about the game that the rules are essentially in favor of the characters instead of being agnostic or neutral.
Yeah. Weird Guy also makes a comment about Pocket Fantasy. He says the out of combat spells are 2 per session, but the GM sets a difficulty number and you roll to pull it off. Want to bend a spoon, make it easy. Want to destroy a castle, that's hard. Okay. And he made a comment about Rifts and them being Rifts and Palladium games can be controlled by a GM. The wizards don't know all. But to be fair, I can control Vancian magic pretty well.
Yeah, I could know all the spells.
I could be very generous in Vancian magic. I could let Joe I could double the spell slots for wizard. I could let a first level wizard have 5 spells that he can cast per day. But I mean, I get what you're saying. It's the DM. He talks a little bit more about buying spells. It's a thing in Rifts, especially. I'm sure.
Yeah, it says in the character generation part for the Leyline Walker, you get X number of so many spells. And that's what you start with. And then everything after that, you have to find, you have to acquire.
Do you consider the Arcana Evolve that I mentioned, the ready spells and the slots, is that pseudo Vancian?
It's still the same kind of
I don't think it's bad,
a little looser.
I think it's better than 5e.
Right, because it's not as...
It's not not as rigid. It gives you some freedom. The Magister was kind of a mix between the Sorcerer and the Wizard and had a little more freedom. But, yeah.
Right. So as far as spell points go, what I think of spell points.
Yeah.
Most spell point systems that have been made for D&D or D&D adjacent games that are very similar, you get too many points. Like Psionicus in 3.5 get way too many points for their what's essentially spells. I know they're psionics and they're supposed to be different, but it's just a different word on the page. Yes. They all do all the same things.
Yep.
Mostly. But usually spell point systems give you too many points. Especially as you get toward the end game. In the psionics part of 3.5, once you got up to 20th level, a 20th level psionicis, you could cast like 20 9th level powers all decked out and destroy everything.
Yeah, we were talking about the system that I used. Was a bit of my first run last week was a little too generous. It didn't hurt the adventure we played in.
No.
But Killraven says, of those, welcome Killraven, of those I've used over the years, a spell point system with a prepared, studied spell list was the most fun. Casting from your list known costs significantly more. Okay. That's interesting. Not bad.
Right.
So you'd kind of prepare, but you get your spells ready. But in a pinch, you're like, dude, I really wish I could cast reverse gravity. Do it, but it's going to cost you double points. That's not a bad idea, actually.
Right.
Yeah, cast from a prepped list. That's cool. I like that.
So as I've played a lot of Wizards over the editions, I noticed that in earlier editions, your low-level spells had more mileage. But in later editions, they lost their worth to even look at fairly quickly. Like Magic Missile, at most got 5d4 plus 5. And once you got into your double digits, that was paltry damage, and you really had a lot more better things you can do with your spells than cast a magic missile that round. So you usually had a bunch of spells that you never cast and a bunch of spell slots that you never used once you get to a certain level.
Yep.
So I always thought that a spell point system would be better because then you can spend your magical energy, so to speak, on the things that you're going to be doing.
Correct.
So then who cares if your magic missile spell becomes obsolete?
Yeah.
You just won't spend your magical energy on it. You'll just use your spell points for your spells that are more useful.
I am not the master of like role-playing games in the sense that I've not played tons and tons. I played enough. I like spell points in the feel. It feels right. Spell points are dropping down. Your wizard's getting weaker. That has the good feel. I would like, but I've never found a system. I never read one that I thought was good. It was either too weak or too hard. Go ahead.
Right. So, David Gwill is plugging his Delver's book. Now, is this the based on 5th edition, or is this the dice pool version where you can enhance most spells? So at Biggest Geekest, this is why in Delvers I let you enhance most spells. So at any level, even something like Burning Hands works well.
Oh, I think that's in the current version.
You can just up the damage, area effect, etc. Oh.
Yep.
Right. So that's cool. You need to look at that system. We keep saying that.
Yeah, we do. We
the
never
D20
get to
version. It's the D20 version.
Yeah, I thought so. I thought I saw that in there. I like that. I mean, Arcana Evolved by Monty Cook had he had a kind of thing, diminish and heighten effects of spells. There weren't a lot of options, but every spell most spells had a heightened and diminished effect. Not all of them, right?
Right. Well, 0 level didn't have a diminished version.
Oh, okay, that's what it was.
Obviously, they wouldn't. But the problem with the only problem I saw with that version and that system was too many fiddly parts.
Yeah.
And then you forget some of the fiddly parts because there's too many things to worry about when you're playing your game.
Yeah.
So I think your best bet is having X number of spells. You know what they all do, and either you have your slots or you have your points.
I think spell points is probably the easiest for new players to grok. Burn your points. Here's your spell list. Every time you cast a spell from this category, mark off this many points. I'm done. I'm definitely working on the spell points. That's where I'm leaning for my system. I mean, right now I'm not going to leave that category yet. Though Joe proposed one that I thought was intriguing. What do you think about spell check systems like DCC and Savage Worlds, where you have to make a roll for your spell to even happen, and there's always a chance it won't work? And in both those games, you can get moderate to very severe backfire.
Well, I think that's cool. If you have a spell check, it can often be the balancing factor. If you had D&D spell power, which is high,
right?
Especially, well, it all depends. It all depends on which version and which spell you're talking about.
Yeah.
They've changed back and forth so many times. It's hard. Right. It's hard to pin it down.
Yeah.
But that can balance out that aspect of D&D spells.
Yep.
And you might not even, you can have spell points and get rid of the stupid tables and then throw in that spell check. And then if you think these spells are too tough, then you have a chance of, whatever you want to set for the consequences. Either it's just your spell fizzles.
Yep.
And if you're going to do a spell check, you're going to mostly let them cast freely during combat.
Yeah, it's hard to imagine let it be like even spell points might be too much to onus to put on them to be able to have a spell check if there's going to be a weird backlash. Though Savage Worlds does it. Savage Worlds gives you only so many power points, but you have ways to get it back quickly. And it's never seemed like it was too onerous because you had to roll snake eyes to even roll on the backfire table. Or you have to you got to roll 1 on the spell casting check. That's right. Rolling for spell casting. It's not a bad idea. Fighters roll to hit. These roll to pickpockets.
It would generally be if you want to have a fumble or a backfire, mechanic, you put it at 1 or maybe 2, something like
I
that.
think if you're going to allow, like, are you talking also about saying there's no levels on spells? You try to cast whatever you want to cast? I know you mentioned sort of that thing too.
I did, but I know that's probably too much to throw all together. But what I would say is, if let's say you just take the D&D spells generally the way they're presented, you throw in spell points. You have to figure out which ones cost what. You don't necessarily have to say each first level spell costs exactly the same amount, especially since they differ in power.
Yeah.
Because light, though it is useful, is not as powerful as sleep.
Yeah. Correct. And so
light will take out one person if you cast it on their eyeballs, if you're using that version of the spell.
Sleep could take down 15 or 20.
Depending on which version of sleep you're using.
Correct.
Right? And it could be 1, or it could be, like you're saying, could be lots.
Well, you talked a little bit about the idea of like, and I like this idea because I'm going to create my own spells. It's like each spell has, could have either its own target, it could have its own difficulty, it could have its own challenges. Even if it's not a backfire effect, I mean, like, if you cast sleep more than twice a day, you get fatigued.
Yeah.
And it starts to affect you, and fatigue could be anything. Point Blank mentions a game, Frostgrave, which I think is a kind of a battle. Is it a war game? You can use blood magic.
It's been a long time since I saw that reference.
Yeah. If you miss the DC, you can spend the number of hit points to meet the target. Oh, yeah. For a mage, it's dangerous, but a cool mechanic. Third edition had some blood mage stuff. And Killraven mentioned something called the Unisystem. I don't know anything about that. It says, wrong one. Where is that at? Flying right through. Not D&D related, but I think my favorite mag system is Classic Unisystem. Yeah, I don't know that, but that sounds kind of cool. Halcyon keeps supporting the Wild Mage. Has a chart he rolls on. The spell could be higher on level, lower in level, or a Wild Surge. Yeah, that's fun times. I mean, the Wild Mage is fun times. Joe wouldn't like playing it. He likes to rely.
It's a little bit
rely on his magic. Yeah,
it is wild magic. It's essentially the what was it? The wand.
Mm-hmm.
That Wand of Wonder. Right? The Rod of Wonder.
It was originally the Wand of Wonder, I think.
So, yeah. And that is essentially that table got made into the wild magic.
Mm-hmm.
Which makes sense because it's, wild magic in a stick.
Iron Man, I think this is the one you were telling me about at Big Geek Con. He said, in our game, you memorize a number of spells based upon level plus intelligence. You can cast a certain number of spells in a day. You can cast any of your memorized spells over and over until you hit your limit. So if you can cast 5 spells a day, and you got
that's kind of the Arcane Evolved thing.
Yeah, it's a mixture. It sounds like it's a bit of the Ready thing and kind of a quasi-Vancian. It's not bad though. Looks like it gives you a little bit more freedom. What about freeform magic systems? They've never really, where you're like, well, here's one that I know you've talked about. Isn't what's that magic system you and Jeff love and Patrick loves it too? That game.
Oh, right. Ars Magica.
Ars Magica. Is that a freeform system? But there's rules to them.
It's
though, right?
not exactly.
It's not freeform.
It has some constraints, but within those constraints, you can be very creative. So you have some rote spells.
Yep.
That are all statted out that you can just say I want to cast that, and you have a casting roll. Mm-hmm. But you can do spontaneous magic, and that goes according to you have different skill levels and the different forms of magic, and it's basically elements and different other things. So all kinds of like time and all the different thematic things you think about magic are all delineated in different things, and it's all based in Latin. And you put 2 or 3 of them together, you make your roll. If you do the spontaneous side, there's a chance of bad things happening or a really, really cool thing happening, or just normal. But there's you can be very creative. It's not open-ended exactly,
right?
But it's close. It's not free form. Free form just says it's the way. What I don't like about those, is all the bargaining.
Yeah, the bargaining.
You got a lot of time. You got a time at the table doing some bargaining with the DM.
Right. I got the 3rd edition book for Ars Magica and gave it away at CavinCon one year because I looked at it and said, "Nah, I'm never going to use this. This is too much." It just didn't.
Right, because basically what it is one person at the table plays the wizard, and everybody else plays his vassals.
Right.
And then that switches every time you get into a new session. And, some people like that. I don't like that at all.
Darth Theix said something that's crossed my mind. I always hated the idea of a wild mage. Why would you even bother to cast a spell if you never knew what's going to happen? You could kill yourself just playing your dude. That's just idiotic. Well, in DCC, for example, that's kind of the shtick. Magic is power that crazy people tap. Wizards are sorcerers that are messing with stuff that men were not meant to know.
Right. I would say the problem with wild magic is different from DCC. Wild magic, you just don't know what's going to happen.
Okay.
Right. There's 100 different things that could happen. But in DCC, as long as you roll high enough on the die, at the very least, you're going to get the spell that you want. And the higher you roll, the better things happen in the theme of that spell. It's not like you cast Fireball and you roll really high and, there's a gust of wind and it's really blows hard.
Fleddy said, he say mage is the most open magic system. Great risk, great reward. Yeah, we talked about that a bit with Jeff, I think the other night. Yeah. Patrick said he never ran Ars Magica troop style. That's correct. He ran it very differently. You were all wizards and all super groovy.
Right.
Man of War, Neighbor the Beast comes in and says, since my 55th birthday, my memory is getting more Vancian by the day. So spell amnesia sounds nowhere near outside the realm of possibility. What's CRS? I don't know what that is. I don't know.
I can't remember.
He's not wrong. Do we forget? Well, we forget a lot of stuff, Joe.
Yeah, but when you are a spry 20-year-old with all your vim and vigor, I would say it's a little silly. Although, as in AD&D, you could very well be a first level 40-year-old wizard.
Yeah. Darth was saying he's talking about D&D. I knew that. I was just being difficult.
Right. Yeah. So I was saying a little earlier, if you took the D&D spells as presented, threw in spell points, you have to tweak it, and then that spell check, right, to see if you fizzled or if you fumbled or maybe if you crit. Then I think you could just dispense with the slots, and you just worry about if you're high enough level, you can cast first or second or third, like it says in the book. And if you have enough spell points.
Yep. True. Our man says your dog may need oil.
Yeah, she has a very high whine. Are you in here? Yes, she's laying down finally.
What about Darth clarifies. CRS, can't remember poop. Have you ever played a fatigue system? I've seen some by Homebrew for D&D.
I probably have. I just don't. Yeah. I forget a lot.
Our friend Greg T created one at the end of 3rd edition that I thought was pretty slick. But if you think of something like, Numenera, where you cast spells sort of when you're what are they called? There's the glaive, that's the fighter type. Who's the casty type? I forget the name.
I've never played Numenera.
It's like
they have the 3, it's a fighter and a wizard and a thief.
And as you cast powers, your stats go down.
Yeah, stupid.
Well, you can see books all the time. Fatigue mimics a lot of books. It mimics novels.
Sure, but
Weakening.
It's generally in these systems, fatigue is a separate track.
Correct.
Right. So in his game, essentially your hit points and your spell points and everything that you could possibly need points for to do comes from your stats.
From your 3 stats. They get knocked down. Now, Constitution being drained by casting spells is not the worst. If you don't do it right off the gate, you let them have a buffer of spells, and then when they lose it, they're just fatigued. They're not like dead. Maybe if they go to a con of 0, they're unconscious in a coma. If you want to be really cruel, and so no wizard goes to 0, which makes sense. You wouldn't cast yourself to 0 except in a dire situation.
So in a D&D sense, you could say it's temporary, and as you rest, it comes back.
Let's see here. What's this one?
Old Swords Reign, which is another way to say OSR, uses Vancian magic because it's OSR. You know all the spells at certain levels, but your intelligence or wisdom score determines how many different spells you can memorize into your fixed slots.
Okay. Killraven agrees with Joe. He dislikes Numenera quite a bit. The thing I liked about it, it was kind of weird. I like the ciphers. The ciphers fit in the world, but yeah, it wasn't great.
Right. So I had the Strange instead of Numenera.
Right.
And while I liked the premise and a lot of the setting, after running a cipher, running a Strange, which is weird. The Strange is the name of the game, not Strange.
It's a stupid game.
So after running the Strange,
stupid name.
Yeah, for close to a year, I think, I got really tired of how that system worked.
I think
and ciphers.
Yeah, ciphers
in that one. It was really shoehorned into it.
So, yeah, especially if you ran the fantasy version, didn't make any sense at all. Numenera does make sense with the ciphers, but it does run its course quick in terms of interest. We're currently playing a game that is a better version of the Strange called the Minders campaign. I'm playing with my friend Ben and Tim Scott, Larry Elliott, and a few others. We're playing this, basically, we're bi-monthly. We're taking a break, but we're running the Strange. It's basically, the Strange is like Quantum Leap, but a sucky version of Quantum Leap. And our version of Quantum Leap is pretty good.
Well, yeah, you have to maintain a somewhat different character sheets for the different places you go to in the Strange. And you have a weird character sheet. You have a fold over part. So if you go to the fantasy version, you have a certain, your overall character is the same, but a subset of your character's abilities switch out between, say, the fantasy setting or the sci-fi setting or the supers setting. They're all different dimensions in essence that you can go to, and then you switch out different things. It sounds kind of cool, but it's kind of cumbersome, and the underlying mechanics are not my favorite.
Yeah, Killraven,
too abstract.
Yeah, Killraven says the system for him wasn't fun. He hated the setting. I thought the system was okay. I can't run this is for Numenera. I can't imagine running a campaign in it. It was fun when I sat down and played it. Big Geek Con, at Gen Con years ago, but it's weird. I give it to you. I won't make a big argument against you, Killraven. It's weird. Oh, Old Swords Reign, yeah.
Old Swords Reign is also free.
Cool. That's the one weird guy was talking about having slots and stuff. Not bad. All right. Let's see. What about spell access? Talked about, we mentioned things like a cleric he gets choose a list given by his god. He gets a preset list like in D&D, and then he picks them. You got to learn your spells, go hardcore. You have to learn them to use them. Or 13th Age, like where all the. Well, let's go slowly. What do you think about the cleric version of spells? Like
it
access to everything. Access to
everything.
Access to everything, and just pick them.
And just pick them. That's pretty nice, but their spells aren't very powerful.
Correct.
And they have a very tight niche, and but latter versions of 3rd edition 3.5, the number of spells that cleric had access to was ginormous.
Yeah.
And you might have 5 books that you could peruse while you're playing, which is a pain in the butt.
What about that concept for a system? What if you played a game like in 13th Age where here's the spells that wizards know, pick the ones you want.
Right.
Here's the spell that clerics know, pick the ones you want. Here's the spell that wizards know, pick what you want. What would you think of if that was the way you got spells?
It's nice, but your spell book thing goes out the window, right?
Yeah.
The thematic thing about the wizards is their spell books, and in a setting like 3rd edition, they don't have them, or don't need them. It's just superfluous.
Yeah. Arman says Druid has access to all spells and they can be pretty powerful. Oh, the cleric has some powerful spells. Raise Dead is not weak. Finger of Death is not weak.
Right.
The reverse, Slay the Living, the reverse of Raise Dead. I mean, that's not weak, but it's like they don't have that many in old school. I mean, they're okay. The Druid spells, our Druid at the table was not, he was doing more outside of the battles than within.
Right. So spell access. So it's a mixed bag. So if you have clerics, well, different versions of the game.
Yep.
Either they just said they get the spells and didn't say how you got the spells. Mm-hmm. Then later versions tried to say stuff like, well, when you prayed, you contacted your God and they awakened for you individually and gave you your stuff individually. Dancing lights, best spell, rave wizard. That's funny. Funny, random Rick reviews, triple R.
Yeah.
So, and the cleric is an oddity in D&D because really the cleric in my mind is the paladin.
Yes.
The cleric is a healer. So I think D&D would be better served having a class called the healer, and then you could be better themed at it. You can throw a better theme at it than the cleric, which is kind of this has a lot of the same language as what the paladin does.
Right.
But the paladin is better at being a paladin, I think, because they're good at fighting, have just a little bit of spells. Not waiting all the way till 9th level to get your spells though is a little not great if you're not playing very long, especially in old school games. The paladin will never have spells.
Yeah. Darth says he likes to show improvement. I think a wizard should always get a couple of spells for free at level up, but otherwise they should have to find them. I lean toward a few good spells too.
Yeah, I am also. I get how the explanation for how you get your spells at level up is essentially the idea is coalesce after after a lot of using your own spells and studying your spell book, which has more than just your spells in it. It has notes and all different kinds of things regarding magic. So you learn from it and being exposed to things out in the world too. So things coalesce, you get a spell or two.
Yeah,
one is probably good enough.
Yeah, Calvinoni's making a comment. He said, "What is this here? Cleric was good at fighting too." Yeah, I'm not saying the cleric. He wasn't weak.
He was too good at fighting.
Oh, okay.
Maybe.
Okay. Oh, okay. Maybe he was I think the cleric, if any class was kind of broken, it was a cleric.
Yeah.
I mean, at every version of the game, the cleric was probably too good. Now, the wizard eventually became the king, but I think the cleric, man, he could cast his spells. Okay, old school, not as good as a wizard, but he still could heal. He could do things. He could turn undead. He could wear all the armor he wanted. Now, if he had to use blunt weapons, which was stupid, but he can use blunt weapons, fine, whatever. But I mean, the point was, he was a good backup fighter. If push came to shove and your fighter went down, you're glad you had your cleric.
Yeah, because they can wear the heavy armor.
Yep.
They had the dumb blunt weapon rule thing.
Maybe he's not dishing out the big damage, but he's soaking up attacks and not taking much damage because he can still wear the plate mail and do his thing. So
and then there was the whole turning undead thing that they were really good at.
That no one else could do.
Too good.
Yes, too good. I think.
On what level?
I think mostly it was too good, but I understand. Yeah. But then again, to be fair, undead were stupidly powerful, so you could argue. But it felt weak. It felt like a weird I had to get those. One thing I always felt like you had to get ghouls in early. If you didn't, they were completely turned every time. Yeah, I agree, Darth. Spells that you get at level up could be curated by the DM. Yeah, that's fine.
Oh, I agree.
You could
that's cool.
You could even pick a common list of spells. I think Monty Cook's Arcana Evolved didn't they have mundane or common spells, and then there's another category of spells that you couldn't just pick, you had to find or something. I disagree, Cal. Some undead are too powerful. No undead are too powerful. They should all be doubly powerful, more powerful than what they are. I think that Wraith should drain 5 levels a hit.
Was it Jeff who was talking about playing the Pathfinder online game, and the little 5-hit die shade was draining 2 levels a hit
on his 13th level characters. Yeah, touch attack.
Yeah, that's probably a bit much.
Yeah, probably a bit much. Yeah,
especially killing them, since killing them doesn't probably garner once you get he was playing at 11th or 13th level, something like that. Probably doesn't garner many experience points.
Yeah, Weird Guy says D&D vampires scare the crap out of him. If it's the boss, good luck. Yeah, the 2 level, unless you're really powerful, those 2 levels a hit, you can turn. Dude, even in even in freaking third edition, I think I told it before, I turned an 8th level party into a 2nd level party like that with a vampire.
Didn't you let them just drain levels even if they used weapons?
I may have back in the day. Now, I would argue, and I know I would do this, if I do decide to use drain levels in Mud Sword, if they had a negative energy blade, like I could see a vampire fighter had a wizard make a spell that let him do that. I think I thought they did early on, but you guys quickly said, you can't do that with the sword. And I'm like, really? And I looked like, oh, right. He's got either his hand attack or his sword, not both. So I said, okay, why is he attacking with his sword? Well, he did have 18 strength, so I guess that's a good reason. He could damage people.
Yeah, they didn't have 1800. They just had 18.
No, unless you go down the second edition Book of Vampires with Patriarch vampires, they were stupid. Yeah, I remember.
Mummies.
Oh yeah, mummies were ferocious. So, yeah.
Cal might have a point.
What's that?
Well, mummies with mummy rot.
Yeah. Oh, he's not wrong. There's a reason. The reason the cleric had turned undead is because Cal is right. The undead were too powerful. They were too dangerous. All that level draining was insane. As much as I loved, I took unholy glee in killing endless hordes of player characters. That's some variation of a quote from the AD&D DMG. I took glee in that. I loved the undead, but it was really kind of busted up, dude. My players hated undead.
Weird Guy says you can't even hurt a vampire unless you have a magic sword. Right. That depends on what version you're talking about. I think it was a +2. Wasn't it a +2 weapon?
I think it was just magic, but I feel like there was a version where there had to be a silver magic sword. Or was that another lycanthrope?
That might have been a lycanthrope.
Yeah, I don't know. You're right. You don't want to face an undead with no magic weapons.
No. Well, I mean, in third edition, it was just DR. Yeah. Right.
Okay, Cal is coming at me. Compare undead with powers to other monsters. Yeah, I'm really not disagreeing with you, dude.
Yeah, there are some monster types that punch high in their hit die ranks.
In their weight class. They're like a 4 hit dice white is, or 3 hit dice white, whatever he is, he's pretty scary. So, and if you let him have, like a Spectre, a 7 hit dice Spectre, dude.
Two levels.
Two levels.
2 levels. Yeah. Or what's the one that drains strength? Shadows.
They were low hit dice, like 2 hit dice, I think.
Yeah, and wasn't it it was a D4 strength or something like
that. Yeah. That's fine, dude. Look at Cal being funny. I'm going for beating this into the grave, but a bump. Well done, sir.
Ha.
Well done. But but they're still so cool. But I've always wrestled with that mechanic. We're getting off topic here. Let's see. Create spell. What about the free form spells? I guess we kind of talked about that. To me,
I said something to you earlier before we got on. I think about free form.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's just something I thought.
Yep.
You really, with a free form system, you really have to have a lot of buy-in from both the player and the DM.
Yes.
You have to the DM has to be into the free form magic of the system, because if he's not, and that just happens to be just one of the many mechanics, and he doesn't think about it very much,
right?
It can be tough getting any bang for your buck.
Yeah, because the DM has to be kind of on the same page. You're really excited. You got a cool idea. I want to make the spell do this. The DM kind of has to be like, yeah, man, that sounds great. Let's do it. So, but I think that might be all that we have on magic system discussion. Right. Anything else you wanted to talk about? Maybe you had something else in mind.
No, I think I said about everything I wanted to with regard to generic. Also, are you making a generic system, generic setting?
I feel like
the more generic that you make everything, you got to consider that. If you're if you're tying it to your setting, then you got to consider your setting more.
D&D is a great generic setting system. I think 13th Age is a great heroic Age of Heroes setting, where it's not generic. I don't think 13th Age is generic. I would not play a dark and gritty or a low magic setting with 13th Age. No interest in that. That'd be weird. I think Rifts is a deadly, should probably be a deadly setting. So there's all the crazy monsters that exist in the Rifts world. Maybe wizards need that power to be able to survive. Weird guy asked us, by freeform, you mean inventing spells on the fly, using a building system, or just make it up all on the spot? Kind of both, but more the latter. Make it up
like
on the spot.
Mage the Ascension or Mage
Yeah.
the whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever. There's multiple different, just like all the World of Darkness books. There's multiple versions, but with Mage, it's a pretty open end, free form kind of deal that you and the DM have to. You and the DM have to do some bargaining. And it can be a bit cumbersome.
Yeah, I think I've seen some systems where it's a little bit too loosey goosey. Yeah, Ars Magica, I think it's got some freeform stuff too, but you have some, as Joe said, you have building blocks. Mr. Boivin says Ars Magica.
So it's a little bit easier, I think. Ars Magica, the freeform nature of it is more like, hey, I want to, what?
No, I was just.
I thought you were. Oh,
I'm using my hands to distract you, and it's working.
Oh yeah, it worked really well. You can say, hey, I want to do this thing using these bits and pieces. The DM says, or I don't even know what the game runner in Ars Magica is called, but you have your building blocks that you want to use, and you have the effect that you're looking for. The only bargaining is, yeah, that sounds good, or how about you switch this out for that? And then those building blocks end up telling you what your role ends up being, if I'm remembering correctly.
Killraven says spellcasters and rifts really aren't that all powerful relative to the threats. Yeah, there are threats that are, like I said, I played a couple of sessions. Joe played a Leyline Walker. I thought he looked good. He was doing cool stuff, but those aliens I had you fight.
Sure.
They gave you guys a run for your money, so it was fun.
Yeah. Right. So the rifts, the Leyline Walker, they have a lot more utility type spells than they do attack spells, especially at the lower levels. Yeah. Lots of utilities.
Yes. Yeah, I thought your Leyline Walker was kind of fun. I didn't have too much trouble. I even didn't I eventually put you somewhat near a ley line one time and you got some boost? Yeah. So it wasn't so bad.
But that's another thing you have to consider. So if ley lines if you have something like ley lines and magic pools and stuff like that can affect the casting, your casters in your game.
Yeah.
Then the DM has to figure out where those are at, or at least consider them when the adventure is being run. I can easily see that being glossed over by a lot of DMs. Is there a ley line around here, or whatever your thing is? And the DM's like, I don't know.
You mean tell me to do the things while you head out? I think I found the button.
While I head out?
Oh, I thought you were. Oh, my bad. I thought you said maybe I'm hearing things. I thought you said you're take the dog out. Never mind. Ignore the man on the other side of the screen. Yeah.
Oh, hold on. Spellcasters get eaten up by the action economy in newer Palladium games. Huh, I didn't know that.
No.
I don't know. Anyway. Yeah, we haven't done any of the things.
Yeah.
So
subscribe, people.
Subscribe, like, share, comment, follow. Even if what your comments are not very favorable, that's great. Making comments it helps out the algorithm one way or the other. I even I saw a comment where it was I with the lesser than sign and then the number 3, Big Geek Emporium. So I'm not completely sure, but it looks like it's supposed to be a heart.
Okay.
So I'm not up on.
Let's go with that. Let's go with that. They love Big Geek Emporium.
Yes.
Good love.
To the poster of that comment, thank you very much.
All right, cool.
I can't believe you still are bothering me after I did so much for you, Miss Elizabeth, and you won't even jump up here to show your cute face to the people.
Heart emoji. That's what Patrick said. Was a heart emoji.
Well, then, alrighty then.
Okay, they love us. Nice. They're
training. See you later, Cal.
Good night, Cal. Take care, bud. We are going to do one more segment tonight, though, right?
Yes, we're going to do a little bit of after action on our game this past Saturday.
Yep.
So post-game report, messing with the rules. So you want to focus a little bit on that because I put that in the list of potential things we could talk about.
Sure. So I've done I just started working on rules, and as I was building them, I was just thinking about things that I like with attack and base attack bonus and saving throw and DCs and a number of saving throws. And I had a whole bunch of stuff. It was like, I don't know, like 4-page, 5-page back-to-back packet with some rule changes. And I was just going to put it on them, say, let's do this, make all these changes. And then about 2/3 of the way before almost a couple days before the game, I was like, I need a theme. And you had asked me earlier, I want what's called like a mission statement for Mudsword. What kind of game do I want it to be? And I like a lot of those rules, and I may keep them, and they may change, but I want to back up. I know right now I'm fully in love with the single saving throw. We use that. We had 3 categories like 3rd edition. There were effects. They're called fortitude effects, will effects, and reflex effects. So basically dodge, stamina, and mental strength. But there's one saving throw, like in Swords and Wizardry, and I used that modifier. And I wanted saving throws to be relatively easy to make because I knew I was using the OSE spells, and some of those spells are pretty uber. I think I made the saving throws a little too easy to make, but I'm afraid to make them too hard because I know, well, I shouldn't do that because the truth is I based everything initially on what if there's an 18 intelligence wizard or an 18 wisdom cleric. And that's pretty hard to come by in the standard, even 4d6 drop the lowest, place where you want. We didn't even have a wizard. We had a druid and we had a cleric. So I got to see the spell system in action.
But your spell system kind of, in some ways, nerfed the cleric and druid.
Yes,
because in OSE, because we were 5th level, in OSE, the 5th level druid gets 3rd and 4th level spells.
Yes.
And at 6th level, the cleric gets 3rd and 4th level spells.
Correct. You got quite a bit nerfed because it didn't work out that way. I also changed the level at which wizards gain spells. Arnman asks, are the rules meant to fit into a certain type of setting? That's right. That's what I mean. I think I want to build setting first, and I didn't do that. Even though I'm running sort of a style, I'm running the quote-unquote world around my module. Arnman played Tragedy at Tygon's Falls. You guys are in Black River. These characters had completed the Tygon's Falls adventure, and they ran in another adventure. And I'm also exploring for my motivation for my second part of that. It's going to be a trilogy. I hope it's out next year. And
I think you don't need to have even a halfway developed setting. All you really need to do is have a minimum of a handful of bullet points that describe the setting, and that will aid you in the rule building.
Right, a focus, a theme. Which tonight says, I got to know what I want and how I want magic to affect the world. I got to know what kind of adventures do players go on. I mean, what are we doing in the world? Mm-hmm. And what's next? I don't know. Maybe magic.
I know one thing that you definitely decided.
Yes. What's that?
Initiative has to change.
Yes, we played D20 modified by Dex. Each character rolls initiative every round. I hate that. It was too much. I thought about cyclical initiative. Don't think that won't solve the problem because I think the spells, I like the idea of spells having to be announced the round before saying you're casting. Right now, I like it because I feel like they need to be at least a small chance of being disrupted. But once I back up and think how I want magic to work and what I want the adventures to do,
if you don't have some way of having the enemies differentiated from the bad guys and the party, if that always stays the same,
right, then
announcing spells in advance
becomes moot.
Yes. Because you won't.
Because we've toyed with borrowing from Horde Wars and doing a clockwise initiative, which I love. And being an old guy, I want initiative to be fast. Combat can be intricate and be many rounds. I don't mind that. But I want initiative to be something we can do. I mean, I was rewriting the list every round, and I was like, this is not working. Patrick suggests going for old school Shadowrun initiative dictates how many actions you get per round. Okay, I need you to explain that to me. Maybe we'll talk about that afterwards. In fact, I'd like to sit and talk with Patrick about this. I think the third thing, besides magic and what do adventurers do, is maybe just the setting itself. And I do have a world I started with Joe's help. I should talk to him about how far he wants me to go with it, because I don't want to steal your ideas. And so I've rewritten my world, taking away all the things you put into it.
Okay.
Not permanently. I'm just saying I have 2 documents, one with it still, but I went a different direction than what you planned.
Yeah,
I don't want to take your words and a couple of cool things. I don't want to take them if you think you might develop your own world that way. And I don't want to poop all over. Like, that's not what I'm thinking, but I've got an idea of what I want in terms of the setting, and I like it, but Joe read it. It doesn't really fit what he envisioned for his world, but it does for mine. Cause I can say this much. It's not going to be levels 1 to 6. It's going to be 1 to however high level you want to go. And there's going to be challenges for you to worry about. And there's going to be magic and stuff. So, Iron Man brings up Horde Wars system of move, action, and interact with 2 things is pretty good. I agree. And I like the way everybody rolls initiative in Horde Wars on a D12, and whoever wins, that's where it starts at the table. Then you go clockwise. So if the person sitting right next to the DM goes first, the DM is next. I don't know if there's spell disruption in Horde Wars. I've not
that I've seen.
I didn't think so. If you're not going to have spell disruption or any way at all to cut down on spells, I can't use spells from AD&D, because I think they're just they're game changers automatically.
Correct.
And so I have to do something with them. I don't know what that will be.
I think that if you don't want to roll every round, then it depends on how static you want the combat to be.
Yes.
If you're fine with it just being, we roll at the beginning and we just stick with that for the rest of the combat, and you're good with that, then spell interrupting spells is going to be few and far between, except for maybe the first round of combat.
Right.
Unless you modify that with actions that can change the flow of combat. So let's you have some interrupt type actions that will that you can do when it's not your turn.
Yeah. Well, like Martinson said something I thought was kind of interesting for a initiative based on seeding. So we roll D20 plus Dex. Highest person goes first. We go clockwise, and for every spell being cast, that high number gets a subtraction. So if 2 wizards are casting spells, 2 casters are casting a spell that round, it'll be a -2 essentially to the party's initiative. That's interesting, but I'm not sure.
It's interesting, but it penalizes characters for things that, why should I go slower because that guy over there is casting a spell?
Well,
it's not terribly logical. It might make sense game wise,
right?
It doesn't make a lot of sense logically.
Well, and sometimes you have to choose that over. Thank you, Patrick. 1st to 3rd edition, because I have a 1st or 2nd edition Shadowrun book. I'll look at it. Iron Man says a spell could take more than 1 turn around the table to be cast. If it's a 2-turn spell, that's possible interruption. Yes, I'm not fully convinced I want interruption, but I think if you have no way to interrupt or no way to stop a caster from casting once he's started, no real way to.
Then the spells need to not be as powerful.
They have to be brought down a notch. Iron Man says, what about a system where there are only a handful of spells, but you gain ways to alter the spell as you level up? I've thought about that. That's not a bad idea. That's where I think spell points can come into play. And right now I'm fond of spell points because I love the simplicity of it, but I do realize it's a real battle. Spell points, as I said before, is an uphill battle. I've yet to see what I think is a really smooth spell point system that lets wizards be cool, but not so unbelievably powerful or so weak that they can't even walk. So I'm sure there's a way to do it. I think Joe inspired me, as I said before. He mentioned this idea of being able to cast all your spells that you have as much as you want, making checks, and maybe you could have I could have a limitation on spells, like Magic Missile can be cast 3 times a day if you pick it, and Sleep can be cast once at lower levels until you get higher level. I don't know. Then it becomes weak. I'm not really sure. Iron Man says putting skill points into the spell to increase it. Yeah, what is that like? There's a system that lets you.
Ars Magica has that kind of thing, because each of those things, that the categories I was talking about that you can put together that sets the different essentially will tell you how you need to roll to get the spell going. You have skill points essentially in each of those things. Maybe not all of them, because you may not have enough to put some in each one, but many of them you'll have skill points in. You'll have an amount of skill in each one of those things, and it may affect your skill roll as well.
I know that I want the setting to have humans, elves, dwarves, and halflings as the playable races, and I want the elves, humans, and dwarves to be different. They're all different. There's going to be something really weird or quirky about the demi-humans, that's for sure. What type did we said that? Armin says that type of spell system Joe was talking about is fun to use as a caster.
Right, that's Ars Magica.
Okay.
That's my memory of Ars Magica. So your mileage may vary.
Patrick says I should look at LOTR, Legend of the Five Rings. No, is that it? No, Lord of the Rings.
Lord of the Rings.
Every spell has a target number to resist fatigue. The more spells you cast, the higher. Oh, that's a fatigue type system.
Right. The more spells you cast in a short amount of time, the fatigue goes up until you get a chance to lower the fatigue. Is a cool mechanic. I'm not sure if that's precisely how Lord of the Rings works, though.
Right. Dar says maybe you cast a spell a number of times equal to half your level, at least once. Maybe.
All this depends on the power of the spells that you were talking.
I think magic's important in what the adventurers do, but maybe I really need to focus harder on the setting and the adventurers, what they do.
Look at the setting.
I think the setting is the key. Now that I'm thinking more about Arman's comment, and you said it before, that's where I need to focus, I think, more. But that's where I was at. And I had a few other options for progression of saving throws. I know I did have all the characters. Every character class has the same base saving throw, but it's modified by their class. I thought that was
stats.
And stats. So if you had a con, it modified a fortitude effect. If it was a high dex, you could modify a reflex. I'm toying with letting you use possibly 2 stats, but right now the DCs are low enough to where I don't want the saving throws to get any higher. They already seem very good. So monster and PC alike. I thought it was interesting outside of the rules that we hadn't played for a long time. And we had a window of 3. We played for like 3 to about 10:30, so 7.5 hours. But a lot of talking.
Well, we were there from 3.
Well, we were there from 3 to almost 1. Maybe it was 1 in the morning, but we played from like 3 to 10. No, we didn't. We talked for like 45 minutes or an hour. So
something like that.
We only got about 6.5 in. Yeah. I agree, Iron Man. Setting combat spells.
There were a lot of like little talky gaps in there, and we hadn't got together as a group to play in, like you said, a year. So we had a lot of, I don't know if it's like this with all you guys out there, but when we haven't had a chance to sit down and chew the fat for a while, that's what we'll do. Now, next time we play, especially if we get back to the table quickly, it won't be like that. We might be 10 minutes, half an hour, and then we'll get into the game. But this time it took a while. And then we had a long gab session after we stopped because we were getting tired. We still fine with playing.
If Larry Elliott and Martinson are still listening, we are toying with the idea of playing this Saturday again or this weekend again. So we will see, but that's a slim chance. So, but Joe is off, so we might be able to do it again. I would love to play again because I got a lot more to do. The levitating, light-ridden giant alligator.
Supposedly lots of treasure.
Dude, you've gotten 2. No, you got a magic weapon
that we have to share with that freaking NPCs that you had foisted off on us.
No, they didn't. You got it. But
I'm just saying the treasure. We have to share the treasure.
Not
with
much,
the freaking NPCs.
They've been generous for the most part.
Yeah.
You have to admit, the 2 NPCs have been generous. They were asked to go on a mission by a guy who is a prince from a local city-state. He's trying to gain his last name by completing a special quest. He has been pretty straightforward with you guys. Joe's waiting for the shoe to drop.
I am. It's we're basically escorting.
Yes, an escort mission to help him complete a mission. And he's actually a good fighter, but I rolled so bad for him. Oh my God. He was like he was a moron. Oh man. What did you
But that's
think of
fine because we really don't want NPCs stealing the spotlight. It doesn't make sense.
I wish you guys knew what that bow was, because I think you'd change your tune. Because you also have your mace is pretty boss too.
It is.
So but that's not all. Don't worry. There's more to be had. And if you'd have checked out that giant alligator, who knows? Maybe you got more treasure at the bottom of that lake.
Sure, but we're not bloodthirsty, mercenaries.
No, you're not.
Will just cut everything down that's in our path.
Mm-hmm.
So, so essentially we got to play. It was fun. We played old school essentials with some of your additions, and I think that pretty much worked out fairly well. The saving throws for they saved a lot.
Yes, and to be fair, I did roll pretty well, but I got to look and see if maybe it's just a little. What was your DC for your spells?
11.
Oh, okay.
That might not be. That might not be bad because we're low level.
Well, and you were fighting like 0 to 2 hit dice creatures. 2 or less hit dice creatures are getting a +2 saving throw, so they had to roll a 9 or higher. That's probably too easy.
Probably.
And
maybe the bump for the DC should be sooner than 6th level.
Maybe it should. Maybe I should bump it up sooner. That's a good point. Maybe I'll say bump sooner. Green Apple made a comment about our getting back together. He said, games are social events for me and my friends. We play and chat about the same amount. Yeah, and our man agreed. I mean, it is, and I understand that, but I guess if you don't play very much, if we don't play much, it is for us too. It is a social event. I do like the chatting, but I'd like to, if I'm setting aside 8 hours, which I set aside to play, I'd like to play 7.5 of them. That's an idea.
Arnman says, ask ChatGPT to design your magic system.
I'm sure that won't be great, but
they will probably end up designing it either for a video game or for a novel, which will not work for a tabletop game.
Yeah. Weird guest 564 says that biggest geek is, do you want lots of spells that are rare to cast or a few spells that get cast a lot?
That is a consideration.
Yeah.
Personally, I am tired of the thousands of spells.
I think I'm more for a few because honestly, I told Joe, I don't think there's that many spells. And what I mean by that is D&D has gone overboard on spells every stinking edition. Even back in first edition with, I think, our Arcana Unearthed Arcana, there was too many spells that did a lot of the same crap. And there was some that just did a little bit different or was a better version of this. And I understand to an extent players always want new spells. But honestly, I think 13th Age, Savage Worlds, they do the core game right. I think if I build a game, what I'll start with is something very low, like a 13th Age or a Savage World system. But I will probably lean on my buddy Joe here because he'll say, well, what about something that does cool like this or something weird like that? And I'll add a few oddball spells because that is fun to have some weird ones.
Yeah, but back in the day, there were 10, 15, 20 for the wizard. The other classes had more like a dozen or less. But for the wizard, there were 15, 20 spells per spell level. Maybe, first level spells, I think there were maybe more like 40. But once you got to 9th level spells for the wizard, there was more like a dozen.
And in OSE, there's like 12 of each. And then less, around 5th or 6th.
Or less.
Yeah, I probably.
So I'm fine with that number of spells.
Yeah.
Especially with the way D&D spells work.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking.
You can easily roll some of them together because they do, like you were saying, they do the same thing, but just maybe a little more powerful. But I'm more in favor of having fire, like I say, delayed blast fireball be just a variant of fireball that you can cast if you use a fire opal or something in your casting or something like that.
Yeah. Flady's heading out. Take care, buddy. Hungar showed up. You're welcome. Glad you're here, bud. He was up all night streaming Conan. Does that mean he was streaming watching it, or were you playing Conan all night long?
Conan the Barbarian.
Crazy dude.
Role-playing Conan or... Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah, that was interesting. I thought, I mean, like I said, the magic items, you guys not gotten to all the magic items yet in the treasure, but I think you'll be relatively pleased. I mean, it's, it's going to be a Randy treasure, but it's going to be it's bumped up.
Okay.
It's bumped up. So,
that all sounds good.
Yeah, so I think I'm going to go with Iron Man's suggestion, setting combat spells.
Sure.
I haven't given combat a lot of thought, and I really should if I want to do something interesting. Iron Man asks, you want to use reagents, cast a fireball, but you need a red gemstone? I don't know.
Maybe not the base spell, but the upgrade.
Yeah, that's interesting. That might be fun to do something like that. So, yeah. But I think that's anything you wanted to say about the session other than you wish we'd played a little more and visited a little less? I guess that was it.
Well, no, I'm fine with the way it went.
Were you? Okay. And if we play, if we get to play this weekend, that would be awesome. But even if we don't, we're looking at probably a month. So whenever you get your time off and have a long weekend again. So we'll have to see. I think that's all I wanted to say about the session. It was fun. It
was good.
Didn't gain I got to think about the leveling too, but that's way down the line. Leveling's not important. Right now, I'm just going to give you a level when I want to. Maybe we'll see.
It's fine.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It works fine.
It works fine that way.
Yep.
All right. You got anything else we're going to say?
I don't think so, brother. I feel like I'm kind of done.
Sounds good to me.
All right. Get us out of here.
All right. If you'd like to support our show, please like, subscribe, and share us where you are listening or viewing the show. We are on the socials, going to be a little bit more active out there on Twitter and whatnot. And we are in any of those video and podcast places as well. If you'd like to send us some of your cash, you can hook us up on PayPal, Streamlabs, Ko-Fi, and Patreon. Go visit Big Geek Emporium for some cool gaming products that you can download or get printed on demand for select items. If you have some questions for us, you can email us at thegeeks@biggestgeekspodcast.com.
Thanks, everybody. A lot of good ideas. I may be stealing some of them. I thought you guys still had a lot of good ideas for me, and I really appreciate it. So thank you so much.
Yep. All right. If that's it, then this is Joe.
And I'm Randy.
And remember, if you can't be big like us, then be geeks like us.